Everybody, welcome back to the Right Sports podcast. My guest today is the founder and managing director, I believe, of Business of Speed, very motorsport centric business content, a lot of things under the umbrella of Business of Speed. His name is Vincenzo Landino, and Vincenzo and I have gotten to know each other a little bit on Substack. We've been a little friendly. I wrote a piece about the top 100 Substacks like a few months ago, and Vincenzo commented on it, and I was like, "Yeah, I saw you there." Like he was jumping in and out of the top 100, but I am personally I'm very F1 curious, and that is part of Vincenzo bread and butter. He is known by some people as the F1 guy, I believe, or is it the Formula One guy or F1 guy? What?
No, the F1 guy. It's actually really funny. My barber, I'll call him from my cell phone, and for whatever reason, I don't know how this happened. Verizon sends my phone number through, and usually like your name will show up, Vincenzo Landino or Lantino Vincenzo. It shows up as the F1 guy.
Oh.
And so he was like, "Who's calling me?" I'm like, "It's Vincenzo." I'm telling the barber. I'm like, "He knows who I am." He goes, "It says the F1 guy," and I was like, "Oh my god, that's hysterical!" Like, can you take a picture of that for me? But yeah, there's people started calling me that, and then or just like even like friends and family, and I'm like, all right, this is kind of cool.
Before I even, like when you commented and before I even read any of your content, I just for some reason back then I assumed you were from Italy. You were like some Monza guy, like that you were covering, you were a Ferrari fanatic or something. And then I realized, then obviously quickly I realized you're Italian American, but, and you were based here, but it was
I get that
I
all the
just,
time. People are like, yeah, people when they hear me talk for the first time, they're like, "Oh, you don't have an accent," and I was like, "No, I was raised here, but Italian's my first language," and they're like, "Oh, but you don't have an accent." I was like, "Well, yeah, because I was born here. Like I, I was born here. I was born in America." But it is funny. It is kind of funny when you first, people have that reaction the first time. I'm like, "Oh, all right, well, at least they thought I was from Italy, so that's cool."
the, funny thing is Vincenzo and I are both from Connecticut originally, and we both went to the same college. Both have a degree from Southern Connecticut State University. Go
Ironic.
Owls! And we, which was men's soccer powerhouse. I
Yeah.
enjoyed being there. They were in the Final Four every year when I was there in Division Two, and they were probably. I don't want to get too down the rabbit hole here, but they were probably better than most Division One programs because their recruiting was a little like they could get like mid-20s guys from abroad and things like that. So it was
Yep.
maybe guys that weren't good enough to be major pros, but were looking for an education, and it was quite an interesting dynamic. I'll tell you that. And then there was a guy on my you might be interested. On my floor was Mike Petke, who
Hmm.
played in the MLS for like more than a decade, and then I'm a Red
Yeah.
Bulls fan or old Metro Stars fan, and he
Yeah. Metro
played for
Stars.
them, and then he
Okay.
coached them to the Supporters Shield title.
Wasn't
So
he? Wasn't he at Real Salt Lake or something like that?
yes, yeah, he
Yeah.
got and he had to leave for I guess there was some controversial way that he left Real Salt Lake. It was controversial that he left the Red Bulls too, but because they had won and then they decided to go in a different direction. But then they got Jesse Marsh, and
Yeah.
now he's he. Anyway, we know who Jesse is. He's the Canadian national team coach. Anyway, let's get into Business of Speed.
Let's do it.
Here on Right Sports, we like to talk about content, and Vincenzo, you do not only do you have you're using multiple platforms to get your message out, but you're also, I mean, you're in the business of helping in content
Yeah.
in the motorsports arena. Can want to give a little more about your background for me?
Briefly, I had a production studio creative. I have currently. We just stopped taking clients on that production side, but production studio, production house. and also offered services, marketing services and branding, personal branding to the C-suite. A lot of our clients were our Fortune 500s, massive software enterprises, tech companies, and so we made quite a nice book of business there. Had a nice Rolodex, good networking, but did that for, I don't know, let's call it 12 years, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. And that really, my passion was never to be a video production house for software companies. Like that wasn't my dream. I never thought like that's what I wanted to do, but it taught me a lot. I always had an interest in motorsport. I was watched Formula One since in the early '90s when I was a kid, which is rare now. You see a lot of the new fan base, especially in the United States, is they're from Drive to Survive era, or maybe right around there. Business of Speed started. It's now Business of Speed. It's been Business of Speed for the last couple years, but it started as a few other things. It's gone through some changes. I was learning, I'm testing. It was more of a passion thing on the side. Started as content. That's all it was. It was content. It was a newsletter to nobody at first. It was, some tweeting, some posting on Instagram. Then that turned into TikTok, and once in a while, an occasional YouTube video, and like really just testing and seeing what worked. But the newsletter was always newsletter and Twitter/X was always the bread and butter. That was the place to be, a LinkedIn too. And just really parlayed that into the podcast, which we just finally launched last year. I had always wanted the podcast. It just, not having time, or I wanted a co-host. There was other things I was looking for. So the podcast finally launched. Really starting to create more on the video side of things for it. But the newsletter's always been the constant, and so is X. Always been the constant. That's where I put the insights, and that parlayed into working with brands and helping them bring their message to motorsport, or to help tell their story in motorsport, depending on where they're at in their journey.
Mhm.
And also just building awareness around motorsport as a sponsorable property. I know it seems shocking sometimes to those of us in motorsport. Like, how do you not know about Formula One, or how do you not know about NASCAR or IndyCar? But there's so many out there that don't know anything about it, like anything.
Yeah.
I was actually, quick story, but I was in Las
Sure.
Vegas for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I was at a cocktail hour networking thing, and had a conversation with a partnerships person who was telling us about a tech company in Silicon Valley that they were hosting at their suite, that knew nothing about Formula One, but knew that he wanted to be in Formula One and Formula One adjacent. They had money. Yeah, we're talking millions of dollars, but he knew nothing about it. The CEO knew nothing about it, just wanted to be involved. And so, like, hearing stories like that, it's funny to me now, but that was always what I thought would happen with Business of Speed. It was like, this is an education for executives and people that just don't know that it's even something that they can sponsor. You look at these cars going around, you see big names on there, but there's opportunities for everybody. And now, especially with content, there's
Mhm.
opportunities for everybody. It's not just about being on the car anymore. First of
Right.
all, those limited and untouchable, not untouchable, but they've become very, very pricey. But there's so many other ways to partner with brands, and teams and series now. So that's the goal for Business of Speed, is to show off racing and racing properties as ways to get your name out there as a brand. And so, because we've had the brand experience, we've worked with them, it just allows us to kind of have a unique perspective.
Yeah, I'll say that, like, Drive to Survive has totally changed. I mean, I've been a I like to pride myself on knowing at least a little bit about everything in sports. And maybe 2 decades ago, when NASCAR was getting its really big surge, trying to challenge the top 4 sports, and it was probably challenging the top 2 sports really, in popularity. Like I was like, all right, I got to get involved. I got to watch it. And then I always thought of Formula One, even though who I knew the names were. I knew Michael Schumacher. I remember when Zanardi lost his legs. I remember like those instances or the and open wheel racing here in the States too. I mean, I knew who Mario Andretti was, Emerson Fittipaldi, but Ayrton Senna, but I didn't follow the sport, closely. And I always thought of F1 Formula One as they were rocket ships on wheels. It was, I feel like I didn't identify, like I would never drive, like that's not what I would drive on the road, and then I thought, oh, well, NASCAR's like that. Well, no, even though it looks a little bit like the sedan that you're driving, it's really not,
It's not remotely.
And then like I became like a Jeff Gordon guy, which is like the anti NASCAR fan kind of person or whatever. I don't know. And then he retired shortly after I was starting to get into it. So anyway, the Drive to Survive really obviously is very easily helped explode F1 F1 was already just huge internationally, one of the most followed things in the world before Drive to Survive. And now, and I'm sure, I think here in the States, people are really I remember I was wearing my Red Bulls hat in the elevator in my building, my New York Red Bulls soccer hat. And somebody said, oh, did you see how Max Verstappen did today in the elevator?
Like, huh?
And I was like, he's identifying with Red Bull. So it was, and then I got my wife into it because Christian Horner was married to the Spice Girl. It was, she thought that was pretty cool. So I'm more engrossed than I was before. I wouldn't say I'm like like I can't do anything but absorb it, but now I can't wait for the next season now, because once McLaren like turned that, whenever in that middle of that one season, they did something with their engine or whatever. And and you saw it going through and you don't know, like you don't know what the chicanery is behind the scenes or whatever, but they had two up and come, or I think was Daniel Ricciardo still with them then? I don't know. Like I really like Daniel Ricciardo.
They were bad when he was there. That was the big issue. They turned it on, I'd say, like 2.5 years ago. It was like the back half of 23. They turned it on. 24, and then obviously this past year where they won. So
they've won the constructors 2 years in a row now, and then now that they have actually the champion this year, the individual
they
champion
have the
as well.
Drivers champion this year. Yeah. Which is, for those that don't know, the constructors champion, the team that's where the money comes from. That's where, that's where you get the big dollars. And that's where the team gets bonuses. All the people on the team will get bonuses based off of that finish. And so, to win a constructors is a big deal. And so it's for those in the sport, it's like, the constructors, that's the title. Obviously the drivers is also the title, but the constructors means a lot, especially to those that work in the sport or work out for a team.
Yeah. And so tell me where, your Business of Speed helps with branding, helps with content. And where do you bridge gaps here between in that world?
Yeah. We like to say that we bridge gaps, for brands that want to be involved but don't necessarily know what's involved. One of the big things we talk about is rejecting the logo slap mentality or the sticker mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Truly believe that playbook is, I don't want to say dead, although I have said it's dead. So if anyone technically wants to quote me, I have said it's dead. But for us, it's really about taking, helping C-suite leaders, rights holders create their own narrative. So it's like, okay, you go and buy a spot on a car, or you go and buy involvement on a team or a driver. But then what do you do with that? There's way too many companies, large ones, that have spent hundreds of millions of dollars that do nothing with that partnership. It exists. That isn't, I mean, to me, that's not acceptable, right?
No.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
like, cool, Oracle, you put yourself on the side of the Red Bull and you get to say you're Oracle Red Bull. And yeah, that's great. But what are you really doing to connect with the audience, the new audience that you've now tapped into? What are you doing to help that audience, to give back to that audience? You can take from the audience all you want, but that's not acceptable. You need to
No.
provide to the audience. You need to provide value. And again, how many people use Oracle? I'm using Oracle as an example. They're kind of a good example because they do fit into that category of they slapped on the car. Yes, they had their services involved with Red Bull. So they, it's a client as well. They paid $100 million a year, for their deal. Great, great, great. But what have they done outside of that? What are they doing with that audience that they've now acquired, that they've kind of just like been given? There's such an opportunity there. So for us, for Business of Speed, it's like there's an education opportunity for us to really teach not only what motorsport is, but how does the motorsport fan differ than other fans? What are the challenges? What are the things they want? What are their wants and needs? For us, it's really like we have our operating system. This is probably the best way to do it. C-suite education, partnership messaging. So helping craft that narrative, make your brand human, make your brand something that the audience is interested in, even if it's like not, like Oracle. Okay, most of us can't use it or aren't going to use it, but what are they doing? How does it at least feel like a company that is helping the ecosystem I care about? There's a content flywheel that we help identify. Not everything needs to be high production value. There's very authentic moments, and you see this with other teams. So this is not like it's some novel thing, but there's a whole content flywheel around race weekends and in between race weekends, right? There's things that can be there's things you can do to show the audience that you are interested in them as people, right? Content needs to be either teaching you something through education or entertaining. So how are you doing that, in the in-between moments, and when it's not always that high production value, right? Are you just handing the phone to a driver and be like, hey, go post some Instagram stories for the audience, something like that? And then we also work on like the employee engagement aspect. Your employees need to be bought into a sponsorship. A lot of times it's an ego play where a CEO or somebody's just like, I want to be involved in Formula One. We need to get our company involved. But then you laid off, 20% of your workforce. And it's like, how does this make sense? If you don't have buy-in from the employees, you open yourself up to skepticism. So, we help in a lot of different ways. I like to say, like, we're not an ad agency or we're not a PR firm, but we're trying to help you strategically to be more intelligent when it comes to racing and motorsports. That's probably the easiest way or somewhat easy way.
No problem. Okay, Vincenzo, there was one, there's like this term out, like how using the term speed to and what it entails and how it pertains to we're not just talking about 200 miles an hour on the track, but we're
Yeah.
talking about the whole aspect of the motorsport business and where the confluence of so many things come in. What what is your take on that? What I see you've described this before, but
Yeah, I mean, speed is so I feel like it's a great catch-all term at this point. It's more than just motor sports, right? There's a lot of electrified sports that are and even like Sail GP, which
yeah, that's
unpowered,
huge
right?
right now.
Powered by the wind. But it's still fast. They're still going 100 kilometers an hour, 103 kilometers an hour on the
And the
water.
speed of its growth right now too.
Speed of growth. So speed works because it's like, okay, speed, there's actual fast. There's also speed of growth, but also it works with technology. So like I worked with T-Mobile over in Las Vegas. for the Grand Prix, and their technologies are helping, things happen fast, move quickly, get people in and out of the gates with their technology, help first responders with speed of being able to when situations arise, they're able to get there and they have the speed of their actual connections. The teams are using, technology, and it has to be fast because they're sending hundreds of billions of sensors, and data points are going, literally traversing wherever they are in the world back to the factory in England, and then back to the pit wall, right? And so like they're getting all this information, but it has to happen fast, speed. So speed, just the speed of the culture of motorsport is popping off. So yeah, speed works in so many different ways. When I finally called it business of speed, it was like it was a no brainer. I was like, oh my God, why didn't I have this? Why didn't I do this earlier? Right. I tried there were so many different names that I thought would work. And, but I didn't get caught up in the names. I mean, I did a little bit, but I didn't let it stop me from, posting and creating. It was just when it hit me hard. I was like, oh my God, this is literally the business of speed. And that was it. So again, it encompasses so many different things: culture, technology, business, and the business of speed. Whether you look at that and you say, oh, that's about cars or motorsport or, some sort of racing, that's great. But it can also relate to things like technology, culture, you name it. So speed worked really well for how I wanted to position.
Great. Now, what is this? I mean, what is this journey taught you about the evolving world of content? You've talked about like, oh man, forever I tried to get a podcast going, finally got that last year. That's a nice milestone for us.
Yeah,
You've had this newsletter. I saw you started on Substack about 3 years ago, but you probably brought it from somewhere else or
I did. Yeah, yeah. It was, I moved it back and forth between Substack and like a few different places, a few different
Mhm,
times. So yeah, I think 3 years ago, I finally said okay, I'm leaving it on Substack because I liked Substack.
mhm,
But I was early on Substack too, like very early, like when it first dropped, and it was far less robust than it is now.
right.
So there were things I wanted, like audience segmentation, and so I tried to do the whole like traditional newsletter tools and all of that. Um, and it just wasn't, at the time it was like I'm just trying to build something, and I should have left it. I should have just left it on Substack ultimately. But
Mhm,
yeah, so I moved it around. The podcast was interesting because I've hosted numerous podcasts before. I've had probably a dozen different podcasts. I've also produced another dozen podcasts, if not more. So it was like, this should be a no brainer and it should be so easy, but I cared so much about this one. Like I didn't want it to turn into crap, quite frankly. My first podcast that I ever ran was, a solo show where I would interview brand executives and marketers and things like that around campaigns that I enjoyed.
mhm,
That show ran for like 100 or 200 episodes. And so I was like, okay, I need it to stick,
yep,
but what I really need is a co-host, and I need great guests and things like that. So we've become, I've tried to become a little more selective on how I go about it this time. And that's why it took so long to fucking launch. But to answer your question about like, what have I learned about content? I mean, I've been making stuff on the internet since probably 2008. Not probably, since 2008 in some way, probably even earlier if we count like MySpace and all the other stuff, and forums from earlier than that, which you probably are familiar with. You remember the old school forums and stuff like that.
oh yeah,
Um, yeah. So I've learned that things change regularly. You have to stay, I would say, staying relevant to what is working is half the job.
mhm,
Writing and creating is the other half, but people think creating is the biggest part, and it's like, no, not even. Creating is part of it. You still have to consume. You have to understand what's out there. There's a zeitgeist that changes every couple years, and how do you tap into that? What is the best way to tap into that? To me, writing has always been the common thread. You have to be a good
mhm,
writer to make a good video because you have to write good scripts. You have to be a good writer to be good on the internet, whether it's Twitter or writing Instagram captions or LinkedIn posts or whatever. Like writing has always been important. If you can't write clearly, you're probably not thinking clearly, right? It also has, so to me, writing helps you think clearly. So all of the things I've learned, and I was really, really big in probably 2013, 14, 15 with live video, the live video streaming. I had done quite a bit of brand activations and hosting for brands on live streaming. Meerkat and Periscope, those were the predecessors to what we have now, which is just like you can just go live, right? Blab was a tool that probably not a lot of people outside the tech and social space knew about. There was so many tools. So testing. I'm always like testing and playing with things. One thing I like to tell people is that when a platform launches a new feature, you should use it because they're probably going to give you a boost in the algorithm if you use that, especially early on. So I always had that mentality of like, okay, if Instagram launched stories, I'm like, okay, I should probably start posting stories because they're going to put more eyeballs on that. Okay, they launched this new feature, you should probably start using it. And now it's not to use it just to use it, it's to use it and learn, right? If you use it without the intention of learning and adapting, then you're wasting time. But if you're using the platforms and the tools that are there for you, and you're taking something from it and you're trying to strategize, okay, how can I use this to my benefit? How do I leverage this in future content? And in my case, also helping our clients use it. So to me, it was always important to be tapped in and to understand how these things work, which also makes you more valuable because you have to learn a lot of other things that you probably didn't even know you wanted to know, right? Like SEO, and now with AI and AI optimization, like all of that matters. And how does your captions in Instagram, are they being used in SEO? Like, yeah, they are. Is LinkedIn is too. LinkedIn gets crawled by Google, like all these things. And so you start learning a lot just by doing it. And again, you have to make sure you transfer and translate it into
Right. And
whether it's your
understand the
clients or
different intricacies of each place.
there's so many, right? There's so many. There's so many.
And yeah. And why a reel does well on Instagram, but not TikTok or YouTube. It's like
I don't know if anybody knows that one yet. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
but yeah, it's these are things I'm exploring too. I mean, I'm just I come from legacy journalism. I
Mhm.
come from legacy print journalism.
Sure.
I was always in that space. I was always like a big adopter of. I think I was like really early on Twitter, like maybe the first person in my or whole organization of 500 people to be on Twitter, like things like that.
Yep.
It's I've always been I've always tried to dive into even though I was working on the print product, like I would do the back page of the Daily News for a decade, and the but I was always jumping on digital space and putting digital packages together when I could.
Yeah.
Uh, and but this is so that's what I do is like I'm using that background. I know what a good story is. I know what good writing is, and
Yep.
that's what I'm trying to help people with. It's I like seeing your tips. You have, you started posting tips like I was doing and
I
Robin.
did it because you guys. I did it because you guys inspired me to do it, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is a good idea. I need to start putting
And
this
you
stuff
have
out there.
your own nuance at it too. So it's and I'm very appreciative of what you're able to share. So thank
Yeah,
you.
I think that's the thing too, right? Like everybody has a different nuance. What works for me might not work for you, and I think you and I kind of like not disagreed, but like you had a contrarian point to something, which is fine because like
Yep.
it might work, but ultimately at the end of the day, right?
Mhm.
You have to try, and that's what I think is most important. So it might work for me, it
Mhm.
might not work for you, or it might work for you and not work for me. But the next person could blend two different things together, and it might work
Yep.
for them. But if you don't test it, you'll never know.
You got it.
No,
I'll do
you
that.
gotta be out there. I mean,
Hmm.
is that now? I mean, what would you say to someone just starting? in content?
This is going to
Any?
sound really like
Yeah.
basic, but just start. I'm
Yeah.
working through, I'm actually helping. So, so my partner, actually, this is a great example. My partner, at Business of Speed, she is amazing. Lolly, she came from,
Mhm.
the ad world. So she was a creative director. She knows how to make things. But she's never had to put her face out there. So
She's the
she's like,
co-host of your podcast,
she's
right?
the co-host of my podcast
Yeah.
as well. Yeah. Incredible, incredible,
Mhm.
incredibly knowledgeable is what I'm trying to say in motorsport and the creative world. Again, creative director for some large agencies, has worked on some pretty big brand accounts, like has a lot of experience, but has never had to make content where this right here, your face, Ian, is this central focal point, right? Where you,
Mhm.
the person, is what matters, right? I'm not creating for some brand with no face. I'm creating for myself. And so we're working through it right now, her and I, and she'll send me a video and be like, what do you think? What edits should I make? And I'm like, just hit post, please. Like, just post it. It's fine. Like, just make
Mhm.
it. And again, I know that sounds so like, oh, come on, give us a better tip, or like, there's gotta be something better than that. It's really not, because I can give you all the tips in the world. You can watch all the videos in the world on how to make content. You could go and do like all the things. But if until you actually hit record and forget record, post, you're never going to learn. You don't know. You don't know what an audience likes and doesn't like until you put it out there. And so I would say if I had to give one tip, it's like, just go out there, record. You don't need any special equipment.
Yeah.
These things right here are fascinating tools that have, it's a, I always think back to the Future, the first one, when Marty goes back in time and he brings the camcorder, and Doc Brown of 1955 is like, it's a portable television studio. And it's like, yeah, literally, this is what we have. We have a
Right. And
television studio.
now it's
We
that
have
size.
like, yeah, it's a newspaper. Like, it can do everything. So you have the tools. You don't
Yeah.
need
Mhm.
anything fancy, anything special. And then you just have to hit post. You have to, courage is probably the biggest thing that people need to muster up when it comes to making content. There's no doubt about it. You are going to get naysayers, whether it's family, friends, spouse, partners, whoever, are going to be like, oh, you're making content, like, oh, you're doing that. I mean, yeah, okay, cool. But if that's what you want to do, you just have to, go through it, and you have to do it daily. Like, there's no way around that anymore. Now, the reason why writing is great at times, you don't have to, like, you still want to write daily,
Mhm.
but like, I post a newsletter because it's not something I have to do every day with the newsletter, although I am trying to work up the cadence. But that's not to say I'm not tweeting every day. So I'm still writing. I'm not posting on LinkedIn every day. I'm not posting on, yeah, on Instagram. I'll at least do stories, even if I'm not doing a post every day, right? Like, there's always something I'm trying to get out there,
Mhm.
because that's the world we're in now. So that should also be a relief, though, to some people that start creating. Like,
Yeah.
you can create something today and no one's going to care about it in a couple hours after it goes live. Like, don't worry about it. Like, if it sucks, no one's going to care about it tomorrow when you post your new thing.
Right.
Like, that's the beauty of it.
Is there one thing I'm curious about, because like this is like something in my, like, I want to be able to help. Like, there's a lot of people are very interested, especially on Substack right now, about when they get started growing. How do I grow? How do I grow? But then, like, when we get to a certain, once you get to like 1,000, once you get to like 5,000,
Mm,
what are the things you have? What are those next steps? Like,
mm,
how do we? I mean, I can help you with you personally. I can help you write better. I can, or what to work on with your writing. But like,
yeah.
and I'm still social media and video, which are linchpins of what you need to be
Yeah.
doing,
Mhm.
in a like, what is the one, somebody who's been growing for some time, I guess I'm like,
Mhm.
what's the next step for them? Would you say?
I mean, if you've been growing, just keep going, right? There's no
Yeah.
need to, like, at a certain point, you go with what's working. A lot of times, and I fall into this trap too. So I'm not even gonna, like, this is not me coming, like,
Mhm.
I'm not coming down from my pontiff or anything. Like, this is me. Literally, this has happened numerous times where you're like, oh man, no, subscribers are going up. Like, yeah, cool. Now let me try something new. Let me try that. No, just keep going. Like, keep doing what you're doing. Keep grinding away. You'll know when you have to try something new,
Right.
right? Trying something new typically is not when you're when things are going like continually climbing. You probably not a great time to try something new. It's probably better to do that when you've got an audience that's like, okay, maybe it's not growing as much. Like, all right, let me try and switch it up. Let me try and add something different. Let me add like for us, we added a podcast because I was like, okay, I needed to add a different aspect to this. Like, there's an audience here. They like it. Growth is fine. It grows steady, but it's nothing like, it's not hockey sticking right now. It has done that in the past. So that's cool when it happens.
Mm.
But I try not to switch things up too much when I'm in the middle of that hockey stick, right? I start to switch it up when it's like, okay, it's still going, and that's when I added the podcast. I said, okay, this is perfect time for it. And now it's like, it's going back up a little bit more, the growth
Yeah.
percentage. So yeah, I mean, keep sticking to it, but also clue your audience in too. Ask them
Yeah.
like,
Right.
is this something you're looking for? Is there something else that you're looking for? Like, you should always be asking those questions in
Yeah.
some way, shape, or form.
Right. What's going to keep them like now that you've
Yeah.
built
Like,
this community, what do you
yeah.
do to
What do you want?
keep it engaged? Yeah. All right. Is I mean, I think kind of wrapping up here a little bit. Thanks for your time, Vincenzo.
Yeah, of course.
I I really appreciate it. I like learning from people who have been doing, especially in a you you bring it like I said, I'm legacy. I was never part of business in what
Yeah.
I did, and you've you've got agency, you've got
Mm.
content, you've got your business, like everything. There's so many, in the content flywheel that you're expressing, and like I hope my audience learned something from it, like I have today. And I look forward to chatting with you some more.
Yeah, I mean, I
On
hope I
Substack.
can. I hope it was valuable for anybody out there. And if you have any questions, I'm available, always available. Whether you find me on Substack, you find me on Twitter, any platform. But if I, like I said, that one tip, just do it. Push the post button. That's the most important thing to do.
Mhm. So it's Vincenzo and how do you pronounce your last name? You had a little, like I said Landino, but it sounded like you had a little inflection in the ND, or
Uh,
did I say it right? Or
no, it was good. Vincenzo
oh,
Landino, yeah.
okay, I thought there was like a little like this is how we say it at home, when I was
No,
growing
no,
up or something. Oh,
Landino, Vincenzo Landino. Yeah,
yeah, and he is the founder of Business of Speed. Business of
yep.
Speed is got a lot of places out there on platforms. I encourage you to follow, subscribe on Substack. And if you're F1 curious like me, if you're more so than that, he's some of the content that I've seen Vincenzo put out, or the Business of Speed put out, is like he's ahead of what people are thinking in his
Try to
content.
be.
I like right, like some of the things I read, I'm like, well, that's what we should be thinking about as we go, like because we're in this off season now, but there's never, just like the NFL, the Formula One off season is never. I mean, with the new teams that are coming in now, we got like American companies coming in, and then Cadillac, Audi.
Yep.
Like it's an interesting time. Like as things
Yeah.
are exploding more, everybody's like, we got to get, as people that you are dealing with in the C-suite that are like, I got to get involved in Formula One somehow.
Hmm.
And it's an explode, like in this engagement group that we've been involved in. I've I see more and more motorsport and Formula One content from
Yeah.
other people. So it is a grow it's in a like I feel like wherever, just from an American point of view, I feel, as I touched on before, I feel like where NASCAR was at one point, and I don't follow NASCAR that much anymore, but it's there was a point where NASCAR was just exploding like a couple decades ago, and I know NASCAR is still very popular. I'm not knocking,
Oh
but
yeah.
like but Formula One is like captured something stateside right now, and that's why we keep seeing like that's why we have the Las Vegas Grand Prix on the on the Strip. We've got the
Yep.
Miami Grand Prix. We've got, I mean, it's been in Austin, Texas for quite some time, and so it's Vincenzo is at the apex of where content and the business of this meet. So I
Yep.
would encourage everyone to follow Vincenzo where you can, wherever you are on the spectrum of your F1 fandom. So,
I appreciate that, man. I
and just in
appreciate it.
content in general, I like it.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Have a good one, Vincenzo.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Ian.
All right. Take care. Let's